Gay person sweater.
Literally, gay person sweater. Okay. The gay person sweater of the vest, and then the gay person sweater.
No, exactly.
Of the...
Together, we make one sweater. How many gay people
How many gay people does it take to make one sweater? Oh my god. Hello. Welcome to a Sunny Book Nook. My name is Sunny, and this is my book channel where I talk about books. But this is my friend Renaissance.
I've been here before. You know me.
Been here before. I also talk about the podcast we run together all the time on here. And, you know, that's the deal. So today we're going to be talking about the books that I've made you read over the years. And, yes. You know, like the consequences of being besties with a bookish influencer. No. Why is no one talking about this?
So real, because I went through my Goodreads and I was like, the number of books that I've read outside of class this year, I think has been the most ever. Like, doing readings for class and outside. Mm-hmm. And it's like, talking to you, it's like not even worth bringing up, though, because it's like nothing in comparison to the reading you do outside of class. But to, like, the average person.
Right.
It's like, oh, I think I read now.
Right. But also, since you're French lit, like,
yeah.
Like, that's what you study.
Yeah.
What you would read on the reg isn't what I would read anyways, and a lot of the things that I would read isn't stuff that you would read.
Yeah.
So the things that do overlap are the things that are pretty significant, and also is why we have a podcast together and stuff, and like, you know, the things that I recommend to you in the podcast and the things that you have read are, like, that's what makes them, you know, worth talking about, which is funny, because something to talk about is a book I recommended on an episode of the podcast, with the disclaimer that it's not good.
And it hasn't been, but I still need to finish it.
Do you have it with you?
Listen, you can read something better, if not of the same quality, on Archive of Our Own right now for free with characters that you already know and love. And let me tell you, the characters here are basically the Devil Wears Prada and or Hacks fanfiction crossover with also bad asthma representation.
And as an asthmatic,
as a gay milk-loving asthmatic, I can't say that this book necessarily speaks to
that representation of that experience.
I feel like we should still do an episode on it when I finish.
Yeah, because I feel like we do episodes that are like #serious about books oftentimes, and we do episodes that are #serious about music all the time.
Yeah,
like reviewing albums, and we do a lot of serious episodes on like TV and movies, but we will also watch deeply unserious TV shows and movies and then talk about them because they're funny as fuck. Yeah. So we do need to do that with a book.
I think so, and I think this is the perfect...
Yeah, because it's like so not good, but it's also something that's like... I think there's a lot of media that's like not good in a way that is like, but I get why people love it. Right?
Very this. Yeah. Like if someone told me that this was like their comfort book or whatever, I'd be like, yeah.
Or if someone, like, rated it, like, 4 stars, I'd be like, fair enough.
Yeah.
I don't really... Yeah. Like, that's fair. Like,
It's like...
Also, I'm so fucking sweaty, and I don't even know why. My radiator's not even on. I don't even know. Like, I'm wearing a tank top. Like, it's 10 degrees outside. Like... Literally. Fahrenheit. By the way.
Because we're American. Okay.
Right. America.
Anyways.
Anyway.
That's one that I'm in the process of reading that you've recommended. But I've also...
And I recommended it, like, a while ago on the podcast. I don't even know what the context was. I think I had recently finished reading it, and I was like...
I think so.
You should read this because you like MILFs and the TV industry.
Yeah, I remember the pitch, for sure.
Yeah.
Hold on.
But I don't remember what episode it was. So, yeah, that's the one book that a recent book that I have made you read. Yeah. But if we return to our #roots, to our 2010s roots, I feel like the first book that I actually made you read is probably Our Prison's Obsolete by Angela Davis.
Yes.
This is before we were friends.
Yes.
But I sent you like a PDF of this and was like, you should check this out.
Yes. That was definitely... the recommendation started... How it started was principled communist politics.
Where it ended?
This is where we've ended. Do we see how something has gone amiss? If we put up the two hard... if we have to really face with what our friendship has done to us... This is what our DMs used to look like. This is what they look like now. Used to be, hi, Comrade Sunny. With the utmost respect, I'm starting my communist journey. Do you have any valuable recommendations for me? Now it's, hey, I just finished this awful book. You need to read it right now. You're a gay assmat who likes MILFs. Read this.
Please. Yeah, no, this was really essential. Because it's like,
yeah,
especially for us, obviously police violence and brutality has been going on for as long as the police have existed. But, like...
as detailed in,
yes,
in the text.
But... especially for us growing up in the 2010s and stuff with, like, the rise of social media and digital media and, like, seeing that being such a common trend that would emerge every 6 months.
Yeah.
Of, like, police brutality. And then every single time a response to it was sort of, like, given. It was, like... but you're not really addressed. And then, of course, mass incarceration was, especially with the release of the movie The 13th by Ava DuVernay, like, that came out in a really pivotal point in our, like, adolescence that we were then, like... but all the answers that were... I just hit myself in the face with this. All the answers that were, like, given to us, I think, by the hashtag capital D Democrats and whatnot, and, like, our teachers and stuff just, like, didn't...
lackluster.
No.
They lost its, like, promise by, like... sophomore year, junior year of high school. Is like, okay, you've been saying the same thing since 6th grade.
Exactly.
And it's like, I've now seen multiple election cycles and no one has said anything different.
Like, yeah, exactly. So I think this was such a good introductory text, especially in, like, 2018 when I was, like, well, 2019, 2020, and then I was like...
it's so real.
Yeah.
And also...
it's a very feminist text. And I also think, like, something that I've seen people argue is, like, when people say, you know, they're prison abolitionists, or when talking about prisons being abolished, like, it's like, well, how are you going to do it? And then people are like, well, you should read about it. You should read, like, this type of book. Mm-hmm. And then you do, and then they're like, but if you actually read the book, you would know that doesn't answer that question. But it's like, but that's because if you read the book, you would understand that that's not the question you should be asking. The question you should be, like, the questions that it poses, and also the things that it asks you to question. It's not, how do we do this? But rather, like, it asks you to question a set of, like, mores and values that you already hold, and a set of beliefs that are so deeply ingrained in your belief system that, like, you have to begin to not believe in those things to be the absolute truth for you to even begin to think about what how looks like, especially within our current, like, material reality, because when it comes down to it, it's like, when people talk about abolition, it is utopian to be like, it's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it's also utopian to be like, everyone, like, open the prisons today, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Because the reality is that in our current situation, new prisons get built every day. Like, cops get more funding every second of every fucking day. The prison industrial complex gets more and more support materially, socially, constantly. And so this is a movement that is one of the most strong and the only counterpoints to that in our current day. Trying to oppose it on the basis of, like, that you don't want to achieve that extreme reality of, like, no prisons, is a totally sort of astonishing negation and illusion from reality, which is the, like, excess of prison. The excess of the prison industrial complex in our lives. Like, how do we minimize that, essentially? And
that's really thoroughly explored in this, and as well as also, I think, like, the naturalization of prisons, which she talks about specifically in California, which for me, like, hit home.
I need to open the window because I'm so sweaty. I'll close it probably within, like, 2 minutes because it'll get so cold.
Okay. I think this book also interrogates the naturalization of prisons and the prisons in, like, our society's landscape, and that's probably the biggest hurdle if you're going from, I don't know anything about prison abolition to starting that journey, is seeing prisons as unnatural, and therefore, like, that is why, like, that as the introduction to being abolished versus abolish prisons, and then it's like, well, what do you do with
the ex-people?
Ex-people. It's like, well, this isn't a natural way to handle like, this isn't a healthy reaction to this
Mm-hmm.
societal ill that you're trying to, like, keep away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, like, very inhumane the way that this is making us treat each other, both, like, within the prison system, like, the way that the world works, and, like, society within prisons, and also, like, seeing it as a separate world, like, anyways. But this just reminded me of the reason why this was your first recommendation to me, was because our first conversation was you were posting about prison abolition, and I, in good faith, okay?
We were teenagers.
Well, and we were teenagers.
Yeah.
But I was like, what does this mean? Like, I probably asked, okay, but, like, what about these people? And you were like, read this. And then I did. See how that no. See how... Because it's like, no, it's like, when I say, I'm like, oh, read this, it's not because I didn't ask those dumb questions, but it's like, truly, like...
That's how I got from that place.
Read this, yeah.
Like, that's where we came from. Like, that's where I was.
And, like,
I was asking the same questions. The reason why
Exactly.
I tell people to read State and Revolution is because, which actually is the next on the list, because I also told you to read State and Revolution.
And I did.
I was like, when people were asking, well, how do we build socialism?
When people ask you to answer the question of, so what does communism look like? And they're dead ass about it, they want you to list. Bruh. I'm like, crack open a book. Please.
Like, well, it was funny because I remember being, like, a teen and asking someone who was an organizer with PSL in St. Louis, who was talking about it. He was like, here, let me give you a copy right now. Let me go to the trunk of my car. Here you go. Because I was, like, asking questions and talking about stuff, and he was like, cool. Yeah, you should definitely read this.
Yeah. And there becomes a litmus test for, like, every Marxist. I mean, like, once you ask a certain number of questions, we just hand you State and Revolution.
Like, and he literally physically did. And
I'm like, I will text you the link. Like, please.
I literally will do that. And that's the thing. But, no, you listen to the audiobook of this.
Yeah.
And, yeah,
I
I have this shit annotated as hell. Like, please.
It's so important.
Like, I could turn to any page and start reading.
And it's bars.
The first phase of communism, therefore, cannot yet provide justice and equality. Differences and unjust differences in wealth will still persist. But the exploitation of man by man will have become impossible because it will be impossible to seize the means of production, the factories, machines, land, etc., and make them private property. The socialist principle, he who does not work shall not eat, is already realized. The other socialist principle, an equal amount of products for an equal amount of labor, is also already realized. But this is not yet communism. It does not yet abolish bourgeois law, which gives unequal individuals in return for really unequal amounts of labor, equal amounts of products. And that's talking about, like, early stages of communism, but that's the end. Like, that's toward the last few chapters.
Yeah.
If we look at... Okay, well, let's look at the conclusion. The proletariat is oppressed. The working people are enslaved by capitalism. Under capitalism, democracy is restricted, cramped, curtailed, mutilated by all the conditions of wage slavery and the poverty and misery of the people. This and this alone is the reason why the functionaries of our political organizations and trade unions are corrupted, or rather tend to be corrupted by the conditions of capitalism and betray a tendency to become bureaucrats, i.e. privileged people divorced from the people and standing above the people. This is the essence of bureaucracy, and until the capitalists have been expropriated and the bourgeoisie overthrown, even proletarian functionaries will inevitably be bureaucratized to a certain extent. AOC, like the fuck? Any person who tries to get into politics.
Yeah.
Any person who wants to change this shit from the inside, like...
But have you considered that democracy is the best form of government that we've had thus far?
And, you know, of course, the banger, the last phase of capitalism, imperialism, where capitalism becomes monopoly capitalism. And he has a whole book called fucking Imperialism, the high stage of capitalism. Whoa, imagine that.
This is, again, it's like, okay, you have questions. You're talking to someone who knows. They say, read this. You do. All of a sudden, not only are the questions that you had either answered or dismantled, but then you're left with a new, richer set of questions.
The way I was just looking at this shit on my own and being like, bars, now I get it.
Reading can be so important. Hi, a Sunny Book Nook YouTube channel. Did you know that reading can be so important? If you found us here, I'm sure you know. To the random 12-year-old who's finding this for the first time, this is really going to become, this video is going to become an important part of your identity. Just know that reading is important.
And speaking of things that you read as a 12-year-old that become really important as for your identity. I read this when I was, like, in middle school.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Because
it's, like, it's not bad. Like, it's not like, oh, a 12-year-old, but it's like...
This went over my head.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then I, like, did a deep analysis of it in, like, a classroom setting and, like, an academic text way, where we went chapter by chapter, page by page, frame by frame.
Mm-hmm.
It's so rich on a literary level. Like, wow.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And guess what? Guess what, guys? Signed by Alison Bechdel herself. Thank you so much, Tayo. Oomphy Bay. I'll insert a picture of us. Anyway. But yeah. This is... you read this pretty recently.
I did. I read this... It technically was for class because I had to do an adaptation of a graphic novel into a screenplay thing. But it wasn't assigned. I chose to do Fun Home because I'm a lesbian. So it was half personal. I used the assignment as an excuse
to read
to make my own state sanctioned Fun Home reading.
Yes.
But yeah, so I read it pretty recently, and I've also taken classes on graphic novels under French literature, of course, because huge on graphic novels. So I kind of had like that skill, or like approaching it not in like a Diary of a Wimpy Kid sense, like as literature. As a literature, yeah. This is definitely like a very rich text on par with like Persepolis or like Marjane Satrapi, who is a really famous Iranian French graphic novel writer and director. Anyways, so it was like, I was like, oh yeah, this is legit. But the visual motifs that she is able to pack in, that like, and when they reoccur, especially the beginning and the end, with like the maps of the town and just the way that she frames people. And when we see the first, or her first dyke that she sees as a kid, just like the language and how she talks about people is so impactful. I think the way that her lesbianism is unpacked is kind of like this undercurrent to this overarching story that's obviously about her father is wild. The scene that I adapted for my assignment was when she's in college and she calls her mom to tell her that she's gay, and then her mom tells her about like Roy, I think. I had her in like fresh docs, to show like she's a lesbian, but it's like new, like new shoes, and like with like different seminal lesbian text behind her, because she like when she's in college she also has like this thing where she's like reading
every single lesbian book ever to figure it out.
And so like I really had like this idea of what that space would look like. Anyways, but it's just so the whole thing is
and
amazing.
The only page that is a whole like that takes up both pages and as a whole spread is this photo. It's in the middle of the book, and it's of her holding a photograph that her dad took
of their babysitter,
and it's like like there's so many ways that she frames stories within stories, and it's like it's so fucking brilliant. You could do 17 million PhDs and theses and papers and so much on this. There's
so many different ways to read it and get a lot out of it, because I read it more or less in one sitting and then had to like just like to find a scene and do the assignment. And I already got so much out of it out of that time that like if I were even to go back and read it with like dedication, or if you were to get into it and be like, I'm going to study this, like there's just a well of content, of like different avenues and different lenses that you can look at this through, that I think is so interesting. Because also just like the running thing of like her being gay and her dad being gay, but having to
dealing with those in such different ways,
but that ultimately being something that like unspokenly bonded them throughout their life, and her having to contend with that is so...
It's heartbreaking.
It's so heartbreaking.
Yeah, and also the thing that bonds, like, her and her family. Like, there's something so beautiful about what she calls a family tragicomic.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's, like, it's really a family memoir, and it's a comic memoir. Because it's, like, art within art. It's about life being art, life replicating art. death replicating art, like the way that like narratives of death, narratives of life do that, and it's all very meta because that's what she's doing. Like it's so, because there's so many scenes where like there's so many panels where her and her mom is rehearsing lines for like plays that she's in.
Yeah.
Or her dad who's an English teacher. Her and her dad are on the phone talking about books and literature.
Yeah.
And they're talking about the Dubliners and Ulysses.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, this is dense. There's so many, like, her understanding her, like, OCD, like, looking through her journals from when she was a kid, like, actually physically looking through her diary.
Yes.
And recording that.
The symbol that means, like,
Yes.
I don't know, that ended up, like, going
taking
all
over her entire journal. It's like, this is so dense. And
there's a lot
there's
going on
so
here.
much going on. That was just one of the many graphic novels and comics I had recommended, like lesbian ones. I made like a thread on our Twitter like recommending a bunch because I've read a lot of lesbian graphic novels.
Yeah.
I could do a video honestly recommending lesbian graphic novels.
I think
you
you
want
should.
That.
I think you should.
And yeah, but also you recently read My Year of Rest and Relaxation.
The book, the Sunny recommendation.
Yeah. And I've been on this shit since like early 2020, if not late 2019. So I've been ahead of the fucking curve, bitches. Like,
yeah. And this I think is well, because I liked it on the first try, but I was gonna say like this is almost your handmaiden, where it's like even if other people like it, it's still yours.
That's what I'm fucking saying,
so
bro.
It's like I'm never gonna say it's like no, My Year of Rest and Relaxation is still your book, but it's like yes, I have read it and I do like it. And I had a similar reaction that you did when you watched Fleabag, which was also #my show.
And we did an episode about Fleabag because there was a whole Fleabag era thing going on on TikTok.
That's
we were
pissing
like,
us both off.
Exactly. And also because within that whole Fleabag era thing, they're like, My Year of Rest and Relaxation was sort of getting lumped into that as well.
Yeah.
Also, I'm getting cold now, so I'm going to close the window. Not you being like, thank God.
I can feel it on my legs. I was like, we got minus 20 before we lose the legs.
Please. Californian goes to Massachusetts in the winter. Like.
Listen, I think I've been so brave about it.
Oh, right. Commendable.
Anyways, My Year of Rest and Relaxation, it reminds me of Fleabag in that the reason why people don't get it you are not unnamed narrator. I can say I'm unnamed narrator because I know why, and not everyone here does. I don't think like
feminism is about self-awareness,
and that can be so important. Like it's so honest in its portrayal,
and it's also so unserious.
Yes.
Like, it's such
but
a
that's
deeply
the thing, is that
unserious book that y'all take so seriously. It's
I was laughing. I literally
so
texted
funny.
Sunny, and I was like,
it's
this
hilarious.
is so much funnier than I thought it was going to be.
It's just, like, it's a satire. Like, and it's also dark, of course, but I think, like, when people are like, oh, this is my American Psycho, or this is my Joker, or whatever, I'm like,
well, first of all, people don't even understand American Psycho.
Exactly.
Because that's also satire.
Which is... Like
that's also a funnier movie than I was expecting it to be.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, this is Girl American Psycho, but not in the way that you think. Like, it's also Girl American Psycho in that you guys are replicating it, thinking you're being cool for replicating it.
Yeah.
When really the whole point of this media's existence is
do not do this.
Trying to sort of like exemplify a caricature of womanhood. Like she is so effortlessly gorgeous and beautiful and skinny, but she hasn't showered in a year?
Like, I would not wish this upon my worst enemy. And
she
literally has everything for her on a silver platter, and yet her life is, like, unironically torturous. Like, not even, like, first world like, whatever. Like, she is fighting internal demons.
Like,
that are
demons
so
that are
dark.
so...
That is so fucked up. Like,
yeah, like, she doesn't even care that her parents are dead.
No,
like at all.
But the thing is that doesn't stop the trauma from trauma-ing. Like, that's the thing, is that she cannot process she is emotionally unequipped to process anything that has happened, essentially, like, from what we do learn of, like, her time in college, her relationship post-grad, her spiraling because of post-grad.
Her fucked up ass relationship with that guy.
Exactly.
He, like, literally, like, rapes her. And we get that scene.
And
because he thinks she's asleep, but she's not.
It's so dark and fucked up.
And the way she treats it so flippantly because she doesn't really care. And it's like because
she loses all connection to like her
she has
body.
such exactly that's why she's able to like, you know, pump herself full of pills and drugs.
Yeah.
But also when Riva I've listened to a podcast episode about this book from this podcast called The Bookstore. So low-key, I'm sort of like saying the things that they say a little bit now because, you know, but like when Riva like flushed all of her pills down the toilet, that was so scary.
Yeah.
That was so scary. Yeah. Like she's gonna die. Like actually.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Her relationship with Riva I thought was so interesting, which I talked to you about this as I was reading in the immediate aftermath. Because they're like, they know each other, then they're intimate with each other, then they like each other. And not intimate and like they don't like hook up, but like their closeness and their bond. And like when she just like wakes up and she's on the train to the funeral for Riva and she's like kind of in and out of being there, but like Riva needs her almost because in the beginning on #unnamed narrator is all like, she won't leave me alone, she won't leave me alone, she won't go anywhere. And then
all she does is come over and complain, drink wine. And then she's like, she pretends to give a fuck about me and then leaves.
Yeah, but really, Riva needs her. Yeah. Even in her lowest state. And then she finally kind of takes responsibility of that as a friend. Like, way towards the end, once we've gone through so much. So much. And I think that's the other thing about the book is that she's literally drugging herself to sleep for a year and sleeping for days at a time. Yeah. And yet so much happens in this book. Yeah. That is like, isn't that the beauty of literature, guys? Isn't that the beauty of written narrative that we can live in a body? Because you truly do feel like you are being drugged to sleep. Or at least I felt like that. Like I felt so immersed in her psyche, in like almost like Inside Out-esque, like the little emotions in her head, like that's what the perspective of the book I think really gives you. And that to me is like, that is such a strength of written text and like writing and books in a way that like movies, because they have to be so externalized, can't do that. And of course it has its strengths in other ways, like the aesthetic and music and all of that stuff. But I love when like a book is like just a book. I love when movies are like movies and then you see them like, this is a movie. That's me talking about books. No, but it's like, you know,
I love when books have words on the page.
No, I love when books...
And then there's like sentences after the sentences.
Yeah, and then you like read them and then it makes you like think.
And then you like have the little images in your head.
It's like when you read the thoughts of the character and it's like,
and then they're like, they're my thoughts now.
How are we both the most illiterate and the most literate people in the world?
We crack ourselves up. Like we make we laugh.
We, us pronouns. We
like,
make us and the voices.
We make we us laugh. So,
But you guys get it. This is the audience that gets it. You know what I mean? Because I'm reading this, let me tell you. I'm not immersed in any... I wish I wasn't immersed in people's psyche.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to be in those situations.
No.
Even when I don't want to be in the situation that unnamed narrator is in. Yeah. I'm still like...
I'm seated. I'm listening. I'm here.
Okay, all the scenes with the psychiatrist...
She is so... First of all, they were cracking me the fuck up because her questions, being like, have you tried the moon cycle recently? Meanwhile, she's like rotting in front of her. And she's like, I just think...
On 700 milligrams of Ambien. Like, please be serious.
Please.
The cat piss smell everywhere. And then, like, oh my god, the funeral. Like, Riva's, like, extended Jewish family. And then, like, it felt... That scene was so, like, Shiva Baby...
Yes.
Like, esque. It was so, like, the discomfort of that movie is very, I don't, like, these things are, like, I feel like unnamed narrator is sort of, could be, like, Molly Gordon's character 5 years after
graduation.
For
sure.
With Shiva Baby.
Yeah.
I like the original, I like the text. I like it outside of necessarily the cultural context that I've taken it in a way that I'm just like, I don't really like how you guys have girl bossified this, or I love to appropriate every religion.
Absolutely.
I will say, mashallah, I'll be like, dear Lord.
I'm like,
I'll be like, may your memory be a blessing.
Literally, like I'm so sorry, but these little, like, one-liners from these different religions is, like, there's no secular
I'll be like, and can the congregation say amen?
Literally, can the congregation say amen?
What
Amen.
is the equivalent of that?
Like, I'm righteous in the path of the Lord. Like, what else? What else can I say? It's like, oh, why'd you do that? I know my truth because I'm righteous in the light of the Lord, and I let him lead the way. So how are you going to tell me that I'm in the wrong?
Unnamed narrator doesn't really have any self-insight.
Mm-hmm.
Except for we get glimpses of her being like, because, like, truly the crux of this, and the crux of Fleabag, is that she hates herself.
Yes.
Unnamed narrator hates herself. And I think, like, fundamentally, what young women everywhere relate to with all of the people, all of these texts they're misinterpreting in media that they're internalizing, is that they hate themselves and everything they go through is, like, tied to that fundamentally, and that's what we're seeing on their character arcs and stuff while they're working through that shit.
That is the same, like, thesis of Not Okay, and that movie was ass, because that also is about a young woman who hates herself. But that shit makes no fucking sense in the way that Fleabag and My Year of Rest and Relaxation, that shit makes, like, the fact that they hate themselves, and that leads to the chain of events that it does, and the sympathy that the literate readers are, like, that's able to provoke, or just our own judgments, that feels...
There's
a reason why those are popular.
Because those are written... It's like well constructed. Also, for Not Okay, we did a vlog for it. Reading a vlog where we, like, we're drinking wine. Because we were like, it'll be fun. No. Like, the full vlog, it's like 45 minutes long, and it's on Patreon for you know, our real fans. Who are,
Hashtag real fans.
Who are wanting to get that bonus 3 hours of content every month. You know.
Fiending for the Lavender Menace content.
But there'll be, like, a shortened clip that's just up on YouTube or whatever. And that it will be in the cards, I'm sure.
But I think it's so important that it's not like, oh, anything that's a young woman who hates herself, we love blindly and it's good. It's like, no, like...
It has to be good, actually.
It does. And I think My Year of Rest and Relaxation, even though, like, I read it so recently, so it's already really popular, I think I would like it the same if, like, oh, Sunny just recommended it to me, and then I read it and be like, really like... I get it. Yeah. Like, this would still be one of my fave reads. Yeah. But it's like, now it's so popular. It's like, okay, well, if I say it, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean when you say...
What do you mean when you say that?
But no, it's good.
Yeah. And I think those are all the books that I've, like, forced you... Oh, no! Last night at the Telegraph Club. Yeah. I have forced you at gunpoint to read. We have a whole episode about it. I think I've, like, plugged it a million times here, but, like... We talk about it at length, and I made you read it after this is the thing with a lot of these. I'll read it, and I'll be like, you should read it, and then we'll do an episode on it. We also do that with Girls Can Kiss Now by Jill Gadowitz, which we also have an episode on that should be coming out soon, or is up now.
What a good... And that one is a book, but it was also a collection of essays. It wasn't a narrative, which are all the other books. That also... That is nonfiction and isn't theory as well.
Yeah, because it was published, like, this year, and it's in the Goodreads. It was in the Goodreads nomination, like, Choice Awards, but...
For comedy.
Yeah.
Which, it's so funny.
But
if
to
you're
us,
a Twitter lesbian.
Like, for us. To us, we laughed.
I was literally the perfect demographic to get every single joke
because
in the
I was
book.
reading it being like, Renaissance is gonna eat this shit up.
Like, I could hear the tone so perfectly.
Because I got, like, at probably 85% of it, or I could pick up the context clues to understand it. Yeah. But, like...
It was, like, this is what I feel like reading in your true, like, first language feels like, this is what people who, like, are Russian and then read, like, Russian comedies probably feel like.
Please.
I'm like, this is my... This is my, like, native language, for real.
Yeah.
Like, a collection of essays in Twitter lesbian speak, like, I am, like,
you're
demographic
seated.
of one.
Barricade at the Jill Gadowitz book signing.
No,
like,
I'm such a huge fan.
Yeah.
Such a huge fan. No one loves women artists more than me.
Right. Barricade at the women artists fan club. Oh, but Last Night at the Telegraph Club is a young adult historical novel that's won 1 million awards. Chinese femme.
Mm-hmm.
Italian butch.
Yeah.
San Francisco Chinatown.
1940s.
Red Scare. McCarthyism.
Slay. That's such an old joke.
Yeah.
Lesbian bars.
Lesbian bars. So important.
Cool lesbian apartments in San Francisco. Smoking indoors.
Key.
So important.
Pulp, like lesbian pulp novels at the drugstore.
So important.
Being the STEM girls at your high school.
So important.
Yeah.
Being able to pull a butch femme relationship because you're the only 2 girls in a math class. Like, some people need that book for hope. Some people need to see that there is that on the other side. Like, some people need that. Some people be like, girl, just stick through it. You'll find the butch of your dreams. You'll find that Italian-American butch. Just take that upper level math class.
Zooming in to the cover, being like, me and who? Me and who?
Please,
bitch.
It's so important. See,
I did recommend Conversations with Friends on a really
because I remember
early
posting
episode.
Sally Rooney is twice. He recommended both.
Conversations with Friends.
And that's one of my favorite books of all time. That one changed my life. Everyone say thank you, Sunny.
Yeah. Oh, we also read Princess Florinda and the 40 Flight Tower over the summer.
One of the cutest stories of all time.
And we did a bonus episode on that, I'm pretty sure. And also on Patreon. And I recommended Malibu Rising.
I'm saving that one. That one will be read in 2023.
Yeah.
I chose this first.
Yes, because we're Sunny Cali era.
Please. Everyone pray.
Everyone pray.
Sunny Cali era.
And, Lent is also historical fantasy, and it's not sapphic. It's just, like...
Good.
Yeah, it's just really interesting. It's, like, very speculative. It's so interesting. But Matrix is a good, like, 12th century crazy French nun lesbian book.
Whoop, whoop, whoop,
But which I definitely recommended on the podcast. But Pizza Girl by Jean Kyung Fraser is a good, like, My Year for Some Relaxation Fleabag type book. It's like an 18-year-old pizza girl who's pregnant, who becomes obsessed with this 30-year-old mom. Oh, of course I recommend A Beautiful World Where Are You, which we also read this year.
Yes. Yeah.
We did, like, a whole episode on Sally Rooney.
Because now we have read all three of her books.
Yes. Oh, I feel like you definitely should read The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, because you haven't done a short story collection.
Yeah.
You've never, so, like, I think that would be a good introduction. Oh, Yerba Buena by Nina LaCour, you definitely should read.
Yes.
Definitely.
And I keep seeing it everywhere.
Yeah, because I think it's one of the first more somber literary fiction, lesbian, contemporary novels that I've seen on the market, like, in the past, like, 10-15 years.
Guys, it's dire. It's dire out here.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Guys. Lesbians can never have joy.
No. Oh, Like a House on Fire.
I remember...
I was telling you, because I read it during the summer, and I was like, okay, there's these women who are
these boss,
architects, boss, sort of, employee relationship, they're cheating on their husbands together, essentially, but they're, like, in their 40s, 50s.
No, I remember.
Yeah, you need to be seated AF for that. Yeah. Trick Mirror, you need to read, because we would have such an interesting conversation about that essay collection.
Okay, real.
Like, truly.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. And, okay, Schmutz is also a good,
that's a recent recommendation
book, because it's about this Hasidic 18-year-old girl.
Who has a porn addiction.
It's very funny.
And she finds it because she, like, had to get a laptop for school.
Yes.
And then, like,
looked up, like, sex
kissing
or something.
Right. Like, and then it led down to this thing, and then...
And, like, she can't stop watching porn.
Yeah.
And she also has a therapist that she has, because her mom was like, we need to fix you before you find a husband, because you need to find a husband by the end of this year, essentially. And she's the only girl, and actually the only person inside her community to be going to, like, pursuing higher education that isn't, like, rabbinical studies. Yeah. So it's so interesting and so fucking hilarious. Anyway, but those are the books that I wanted to prioritize for recommendations. So when we do this, part 2, in the summer, inshallah, join our Patreon.
Listen.
For, get our bonus content, support the Renaissance community.
Tea.
You know you want to.
See how lovely we are?
See how much you want to support us?
Yeah. Tea.
Yeah.
You want to support us
You
so
want to support
bad.
us so bad. Anyway.
We love women in arts. Do
you? Okay. Thanks so much for watching. Like,
this
comment,
was fun.
subscribe.
Yeah.
I know a lot of you guys are barricaded at the Renaissance, like, wanting us to
Posting
have
content.
more videos together and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why you should be on our Patreon, and so you can get more of that. But
We can
also,
make it happen.
that way, like, more of, like, our Zoom videos together and whatnot, and then our bonus content, but also so that way we can, like, spend more time together, because we just don't live in the same place.
Far from it. Literally.
Far from it. And we're not going to be able to live in the same place for a while based off of just work and school.
Life.
And, yeah, so...
We're always close enough to visit each other, but it's not, like, the easiest coordination.
Because even when you live in France, I think, like, if you're
still on the East Coast, that will be doable.
Because you could, like, come to New York, and we could, like...
Mm-hmm.
We could stay in New York together, essentially.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Meet in London. Something.
Yeah.
We still have to do our Ireland trip. If we do an international tour, if we do Renaissance tour, it will be in Ireland. Anyways.
Anyway. Bye!
Bye!